morning, everybody. I can now lift my arms again. I was a bit wrecked over the past day. If you missed it, on Saturday we got a giant collection from somebody who passed away, and their family sold the collection to us. We're going to be using that collection for both Dice Tower East and Dice Tower West libraries to help put them up. But wow, it was a lot of boxes. It was a lot of work. And you saw just the on-camera stuff. Off-camera, there was still quite a bit. And it's still lining the halls here of the Dice Tower headquarters. And yeah, we got a lot of things to do. But it's a busy week. We're back, folks, in a sense that each week we slowly are proceeding back towards normal. And what better way is live playthroughs are back. We got 2 of them coming up this week. And we got more, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Before we talk about stuff like that, though, we got to talk about a contest. We got a contest for the game Face to Face. Now, you can go watch my review for it. In fact, I recommend that you do, because to enter this contest, you need to know the 2 player colors in the game. All you have to do to enter the contest is email us at contest@dicetower.com. In the subject line, put the word face, as in my beautiful. No, I'm just kidding. It has nothing to do with face. And then in the body, tell us what are the 2 colors in this game. 3 winners will be picked from USA/Canada/Australia. You got a week to enter it. There are lots of different contests that run each week. You can find out the winners of them on at dicetower.com/contests. So lots of different things going on. It's going to be an interesting week. Like I said, we're sorting out these games, but we still have lots of reviews coming your way. And all the reviews that we've already done haven't disappeared, so you can go back and watch them. And there's a top 10 list we did, Best Years of Gaming, and there's a contest for that still running. So either way, let's get into this episode with some contributors.
Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from Meeple University and the Dice Tower. Now, how important it is a good tiebreaker in board games?
I mean, there's an interesting philosophical way of looking at this.
Sorry, keep going.
The biggest board game in the world is chess, and at the highest level, well over half of all games end in draws. Like the last World Chess Championship was a 12-game match, and all 12 of those were draws, and they had to go into rapid chess overtime.
Or rock, paper, scissors?
That might be just as good, really, but you know, I find that an interesting perspective, because that would just not be allowed in a modern board game. If you tried to put something out through Kickstarter or get it into a modern publisher and you said, oh, by the way, 70% of games are going to end in draws, they would say no. Come up with a tiebreaker.
That is correct. That is not acceptable. Speaking about tiebreaker, I do have a story that I want to share about tiebreaker for our next video.
Ooh.
Yeah. So in the meantime, we are Meeple University on YouTube and also on the Dice Tower. See you next time.
All right, folks, it's been a while since I've taken a look at this. Games that came out 30 years ago, which, again, really serious here. We just did our top 10 years of gaming this past week, and I would have a real hard time doing that in 1991, and that's 30 years ago. Games have gotten so much better. You watching this are truly living in the golden age of board games. But Quarto. Now, Quarto came out in 1991, but I didn't play it till 2018. I might have played it in I don't remember when I played it. I was in Korea at the time, and some people were visiting my house, and I was showing my game collection, teaching them games, and they asked me about this game, but they didn't know the name of it. And they explained it to me. I went on Board Game Geek, said, hey, have anyone heard of this? People thought I was kidding, but I wasn't, and finally figured out it was Quarto, which currently from Gigamic, although there's also a newer version called Quad, which came out in 2002, which doesn't look nearly as good. In Quarto, you're just trying to get 4 things in a row, whether it's by height, by color, by shape, or consistency, hollow or not hollow. It's really an interesting game, but your opponent picks the piece that you're going to play, and then you put it out on the board. Really simple tic-tac-toe thing, and I enjoyed it. I like it. There's only 16 pieces, 4x4 board, really fast game, but I think it's kind of a classic game. It's honestly a game that should be on Cracker Barrel tables because it's really easy to teach. People could jump into it, and it's better than, you know, a lot of those other games they play. I'd rather play this than obviously tic-tac-toe, for example. And I'm still kind of mind-boggled when I see those little pegboards that are tic-tac-toe, and I'm thinking, who's playing these? What adults sit around and go, let's play tic-tac-toe? Quarto is the tic-tac-toe of 2021, or 1991. Anyway, if you ever come across this is definitely one that's worth putting in yours. I think we have a copy in the Dice Tower library because I think stuff like this is cool. Still, a game I would play today, if only because it's like a 10-minute game, and it's worth checking out. So that's our review from 30 years ago, Quarto.
Good morning.
Morning.
Happy breakfast, people. I'm Tim.
I'm Lizzie, and we are To Play or Not to Play. Welcome back to our top 10 games we like to play together.
Woohoo!
The moment you've all been waiting for.
Number one,
Number
people.
one.
Yeah.
Calm yourself. Deep breath.
Yeah, this might seem like a bit of a cop-out for a number one to some people, but this is our favourite game we like to play together, and there's lots of them to choose from. Carcassonne, people. This is Bear's favourite, and this is my favourite. But there's, you know, we've got quite a few of them. There's a couple in the background here. Obviously, the big box is the main sort of standard version. What a fab game this is for us. I mean, it was our first game that we played together in sort of the, you know, proper board game arena.
Yeah.
And there are so many to choose from, and we enjoy them all.
From my point of view, we've been to Carcassonne. So that's
True.
a love for me there.
Yeah, and you like this one particularly, don't you? So
Yeah, I do love the surround you get with the scores around that on the surround.
that's right. Yeah,
Really
it's
good.
the actual
That's the
edge of the building is the
castle.
score track. Yeah. And I really like this one because this one's got the sort of the wooden sort of blocks that you sort of put around the edge, so the walls, and then the towers, and you sort of score up that as well. So slightly different again, but it is still based in the city, as is this one. Whereas some of them, like for instance Star Wars Carcassonne and Gold Rush Carcassonne, I mean, it's a bit weird, but you know, what the heck? You know, we love them. Woohoo! Carcassonne, our number one. If you've not played, like who hasn't, but if you haven't played for a while, check it out. Have a go, please. What a great game. Okay, so that's us done. Number one done. Please go and check out our channel for more reviews and fun times for two players. Cheers, bye.
Hi, I'm Ambie, and today I'm going to talk about 8-Bit Invaders, which is a solo dice placement game that's kind of like Space Invaders in card form. In 8-Bit Invaders, you have a grid of aliens and you're trying to shoot them all down before they kill you or the countdown timer runs out. On each turn, you're going to be rolling dice and shooting the different aliens by placing the dice on the aliens, and each alien needs specific dice in order to kill them. But the way the shooting works is that the first alien you shoot has to be at the bottom of an open column, and then from there you can go up or left or right one column to shoot the next alien on each turn. As you kill aliens, they're removed from the grid and leave gaps, so you won't be able to shoot as many aliens in one turn because you can't jump over the gaps going left and right. Also, the aliens shoot back each turn, so if there are 3 of the same type of alien that can hit you, then you lose. So you have to be careful about which aliens you kill to not expose 3 of the same type. Also, like in Space Invaders, you have 3 shields that are protecting you from alien attacks, but they also block your own attacks towards the aliens. They move back and forth each round depending on what you roll. As you kill more aliens and there are fewer columns left and fewer aliens left, more aliens attack, and also the countdown timer speeds up because it's related to how many aliens are left. The mechanics of the countdown with counting how many aliens are left is a little time consuming, but it does feel thematic with the speeding up of the countdown and the increase of difficulty. Overall, 8-Bit Invaders is a fun card game version of Space Invaders with a good ramp up of difficulty with the countdown timer and the gaps that the aliens leave behind. Bye!
That is actual 8-bit, as opposed to a lot of games that say they're 8-bit, but they show more modern graphics on them. Anyhow, all right, let's talk about what's coming from the Dice Tower this week. Well, of course, in a bit at 10 a.m., we have Z playing What's Happening, and he's going to be doing Camel Up later today. I'll be doing a Q&A at noon. And we got lots of different previews. Mark's going to be taking a look at the new Castle Panic. And you know what? I'm on the wrong date. So let's go back and say what's really happening today. Z's going to be playing a game later on today. Where are we? I'm on the wrong date. Well, that was embarrassing. All right, let's try this again. Chris is going to be doing a rapid-fire roundup where he's going to go through a lot of different games that he's played and giving quick run-throughs of those. The guys in the studio are going to be doing that occasionally because most of the time their main reviews are being done by me and Z, but we drag these guys along for the ride, and they don't ever always get to give their opinions, so they'll be doing that. Z is doing What's Happening at 10. I am doing a Q&A at noon. Tomorrow, we're going to be playing Sodalis Live. So that's going to be at 10 a.m. And then on Thursday, we're going to be playing Return to Dark Tower Live at 1 p.m. Meanwhile, this is a Kemet week. I'll be taking a look at the new version of Kemet, the expansion for Kemet, and comparing Kemet to the original one. But that's not it. I'll be talking about a game that uses rubber bands, Rule the Realm. A bunch of kid games, sheepy time. I finally am taking a look at Hadrian's Wall so you can get the real opinion on it. The four squares together will be taking a look at Daimyo. We got another interview from 5 Games of Doomsday. If you haven't been watching those, I highly recommend that you give those a whirl. That's coming out Sunday. And so lots of stuff coming out this week. So keep an eye out for all of it. And I'm finally on the right schedule. Let's keep moving.
So here we are, back 3D printing again. Don't have a cutesy name yet for this segment, but maybe it'll be something like 3D printing to midnight, kind of like that episode of The Office, that whatever, you know my point being, we're talking about where to start, because some of you last week said, man, I'd love to get into 3D printing, but you didn't necessarily know where to start. Well, there are 2 types of machines, and both of them are under $200. You can get either type of machine for under $200. The question today that brings us to what we're talking about in this segment today is, what do you want to print? What I mean by that is, do you want big resource containers and bits like the one I'm showing you here for Tekinu? Do you want that where you can print out a divider and it works and it just looks good and everything has got a neat place that someone's designed? You can design it yourself too. Do you want that, or do you want something that can do this, where you can print these fantastically detailed statues, pieces like that? The resin printing is so much more detailed, but you have a smaller print space available, which means that you're not going to be printing the big dividers and stuff, but you can be printing these nice, beautiful resources without layer lines and things like that. It's a much cleaner, smoother print. So the question comes down to, what do you want to print? Are you getting a 3D printer so you can have, pyramids and things like that for Tzolk'in, or are you getting it so you can have a divider for Tzolk'in? Are you getting it to spruce up elements of your game like these doors from Mansions of Madness, or are you getting it to be more practical? At the end of the day, that question needs to be answered, because yes, an FDM printer can do both, but I would never print bits on an FDM printer for my games. It's just me personally. I would print resin prints, and also printing your own miniatures, printing your own print and play stuff from Hero Forge. I would always choose a resin printer for that. So if in your mind you're not looking to print something big, you're looking to print something relatively small. Granted, there are bigger resin 3D printers, but I'm trying to keep that price point down with the Elgu stuff that's out there and some of the Anycubic stuff. If you're trying to keep that price point down, maybe stick with a 3D printer that's resin based. Now granted, there's a little bit of cleanup and mess that we talked about last week, but if you're looking for that bigger print bed where you can do the things like this Mjolnir here at full size, you're going to want the FDM printer, and there are a lot of those that you can get for a good price point. Both are finicky and both have to be dialed in a little bit, but once you get it, you've got it. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Come back next week. We're going to continue talking techniques on 3D printing and different things like that.
If you're ever having a fantastic weekend, read Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Now, I'm not going to go on necessarily a rant that the internet is inherently negative, because it's not, but social media, in my opinion, is inherently negative, especially if you spend a lot of time there, even if you are unified in your negativity towards something. But I want to talk a little bit about a negative outlook. Now, I'm not trying to preach pie in the sky and try to always look on the bright side of life, although I think that that is not a bad philosophy in many regards. And I mentioned this a little bit in our Q&A last week, but I wanted to expound on this and to bring it into gaming a lot. So the thing that triggered this a little bit was Roy Canada here has been putting us all to shame by working hard and losing weight. And he's done really well at it. I'm trying to do it also now, but Roy is whooping me all the way around the block and back. And yet almost every comment that mentions this mentions him losing weight in a sort of negative way. They'll be like, oh, is everything okay? Is he okay? Is he starving? Is his health going? Why do we always look at things with the negative outlook first? He's not. He's trying hard. And yet that's the way life works. We look at things like that, and I find that to be mind-bogglingly problematic. And of course, people always hedge their bets and I just care. Sure, but if you care, why do you always look at the negative things first? When my kids call me, is my first reaction, is everything okay? Because I think something went wrong. But it shouldn't be that way. And whenever let's say we read in the air that someone left the company. Oh, I wonder what happened. I wonder why. Maybe they just found a better opportunity somewhere else. Like, for example, we've had people leave the Dice Tower in the past, like Sam Healy left a year and a half ago. People are like, oh, I wonder what happened behind the scenes. No, Sam left to go be with his family. I still call him occasionally. We're fine. But we look for the negative in things. And I think that translates to gaming sometimes, where we go into a game looking for the negative. When does this happen? When there's a new version of a game we like. Like, oh, I don't know about this one. When a game is really hyped, well, you look at it and go, it can't be that good. When your friend won't shut up about a game, and they bring it, and they spend a lot of money, and you miss the Kickstarter, and you're hoping it's bad, because otherwise you feel like you missed the boat on it. And we tend to look at that and say, oh, well, yeah, I knew it, this isn't a good thing. We look for the negative sometimes, even subconsciously. And I would encourage you not to do that. You know, when someone asks you about your kids, if you're a parent, parents don't tend to do that. When someone asks me about my kids, and I'll be like, well, you know, the other day this. No, I'll tell you all the most positive attributes about them. People who speak very positively on the internet are often, shot down as being shills and whatever. We even look negatively on that. If someone's really positive about a game, someone will sit there and go, I don't know, were they paid to say that, And if someone's negative about a game, like I often will, elbow drop a game, people are like, honesty, hooray. And again, I think when something is bad, we should say so. When something is good, we should say so. But my hope is, my outlook is, when I go to play a new game, we got hundreds of new games coming through all the time. When I go to play a new one, every time, I hope it's good. I don't hope games are bad. I don't want games to be bad. I'm not looking for the bad. I'm looking to see what the game is like. Now, sometimes the badness comes out of the box and smacks me in the face. Sometimes when you look at the rules, you're like, oh, this is probably bad. But my hope is that in life, in life in general, we look for the good in other people. When someone does something, our first reaction shouldn't be, what is the negative, terrible reason that they did that? We should look at positive things. We tend to jump on bandwagons of smacking people around on the internet all the time, and we do it with games too. I'll do a negative review of a game, people are like, I knew it was bad. No, you don't. You might still like it. I might be a moron. If you don't think that's true, there's lots of people who say so. And I don't know, this is something that's been bugging me lately. Whenever anything is done, people look for a nefarious reason for it to be done, and we tend to do that with board games. Like, yeah, I knew it. This is terrible for this reason. This is bad for this reason. Sure, don't get me wrong. We have a crazy hype wave train going through about Kickstarters, and there are games that are overhyped for sure. But if you want to enjoy this hobby, then look for the good things. Find the things you enjoy. All weekend long, my family and my children have been bugging me to play Uno. Uno is heinous. A crime against card game design. But my kids have a good time in it. So how can I not see that good? That they like playing Uno, even if they play the wrong rules, which as someone who's a game person drives me crazy. Even when I sit there and say, come on guys, your dad has the library here we could pull a game out of, and they still want to play Uno. You know what? What's the good? The good is I get to spend time with my kids. The good is that my kids are having a fun time. There is good in things. and we should strive to look for it.
Hey friends, we are back, and we have had some amazing game components on our table that we are looking forward to sharing with all of you. I hope that you have been playing some great games recently too. Now today I want to chat about this little piece. Does that look familiar at all? Got any guesses at all what game it's from? Let me give you a hint. So far, every game that I have played from Pencil First has had outstanding component quality, and this game is no exception. So what game am I talking about? That's right, the Whatnot cabinet. Now these are the player markers, all different colors and different shapes, so they're more accessible to players. You'll use one or both of these markers depending upon the number of players in your game. Now each player also has this nice player board here that is designed to look like a Whatnot cabinet. It's such a great little touch. Each one also has a different player color and shape associated with it, so you can tell them apart as well. Now we've got our thick cardboard tiles that we either choose as part of our action, sometimes we randomly draw them from the draw bag, and these tiles are going to withstand getting tossed around in this bag and mixed up each time you play them. They're real nice thick cardboard. We really love how this game builds through each round. You feel pretty good matching up knickknacks and colors, and then the decisions get a little harder. And then you're down to trying to find just the right piece. It's so satisfying to fill up that cabinet. And the player count scales really well too, whether it's 2 players or up to 4. Now be sure to check out not only this game, but the full catalog from Pencil First. You might just find a new favorite. Until next time.
The year was 1971. For the past 15 years, NASA had led the global space race for America, and this year it would chase its most ambitious project yet, to retrieve a sample from the surface of Phobos, one of the 2 moons orbiting the planet Mars. It had spent millions of dollars in the development of new technology, from the powerful Saturn rocket to the sensitive electronics of its recovery probe. It had also invested millions in quality assurance, perfecting that technology in order to ensure the success of this endeavor. Therefore, it was no surprise when the launch from Earth was successful, and after 3 surprisingly short years, the craft swung through the orbit of the red planet and landed on the surface of Phobos. In mere minutes, it had recovered its sample and was ready for the long journey home. That journey would never begin. For as NASA prepared the pre-flight check, it was discovered that the 3 Juno rockets aboard the craft were enough to lift 9 tons of rocket, a rocket that weighed 10 tons. The fate of the mission had been doomed before it began due to a simple mathematic blunder. The sample, the shuttle, and the race for space exploration would be lost to America forever. That was a recap of my first solo adventure of the game Leaving Earth, designed by Joe Fatula and produced by a small arts and craft company out of California called the Luminaris Group. I miscalculated the thrust of my rocket and cost myself the mission and the game. It wasn't an unfortunate roll of the dice or an inopportune card flip. You know, games don't typically work like that, and I think that defines the experience of playing this incredible game. And with that, folks, the Spring Break solo series comes to an end. Tomorrow the girls come home and my week of peace and quiet comes to an end. But you know, before I put everything away, I think I'll put together a top 10 list of my favorite solo board games. I'll stick that out on my YouTube channel if you're so inclined. Until then, keep your eyes on the stars. Cheers.
All right, that was a fantastic segment, but here's my question. Why did when the mission fail, America would never go in space forever? I mean, how bad was it? No matter what the bad, I think they would still keep trying later on. All right, today, so in a few weeks, probably next week, we are going to be reviewing as a group a new board game called Mind Management. Now, Mind Management, and management spelled MGMT, is based on a comic. And as usually is the case, if some board game is based on a book or something, I tend to go out and find it. So, happily, thanks to Hoopla, shout out to Hoopla, where you can read stuff from the library, I was able to find the entire graphic novel series, 3 omnibuses of Mind Management, and I read through them all. Mind Management is a comic that is essentially about people who use their minds to have superpowers, essentially. With minds, like maybe they can write an advertisement so that when you read that advertisement, you are forced to go buy something, or if they can just say a few phrases and get you to do what they want them to do. There's all kinds of things, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's like 30 different things that show up over the course of this series. And this Mind Management is a group that's run by the government, was disbanded, deemed to be too dangerous, and a rogue group is trying to bring it back, and then there are people fighting against that. The comic, you really have to read the whole thing. You can't just read a couple of them. You'll get lost because there are circles, there are things in the past that come back in the present. It really is, no pun intended, a mind trip to read through this. Not to mention there's little advertisements and things all through it, kind of trying to breaking the fourth wall in a sense, like, am I being affected by this? Now, I'm going to be blunt here. I hate the artwork. I know that a lot of people are going to like the artwork of this comic. To me, this comic looks like a storyboard for a movie, but not the actual movie itself or the cartoon itself. It feels like all the pictures feel unfinished. I got used to it, and it wasn't so egregious that I mean, again, I read through the whole thing. But I never was a fan of this artwork. That's obviously just a stylistic choice. It's just me. So, I mean, but the storyline, though, is fantastic. There's no clear hero/villain per se. Well, there's some clear villains in my opinion, but they do a good job at explaining backstories. There are little snippets all throughout the comic where you're like, what does this have to do with anything? And later on, it does come out. The main 4 characters, they do a good job at explaining a lot of stuff. I felt like the comic had a very satisfying conclusion, and I'll tell you what, I just kept reading it. It was just fascinating. I just kept going. I just went next one, because I wanted to see what would happen next. It is an adult comic. There's a lot of violence in it. Don't get attached to any characters. And there's a lot of, theming around it. There's some depressing stuff. The whole comic starts off where there's an airplane flight that lands, and every single person on that flight has lost all their memory of all their time beforehand. And there's also one person missing from the flight, and no one knows what happened to that person. And that's kind of the catalyst for everything else in here. And that actually is something that goes on, and there's other various things. A whole city is destroyed at one point. So it's not even the good guys do some unpleasant things at points. But I found it to be really fascinating and felt different. This isn't a superhero comic by any sorts, although in a sense it is. It's like a bunch of Professor X's going at each other. But each time they came up with a new ability, I thought, oh, that's cool. I could read a comic just about that one character. And they were just kind of there as a byline and moved on. So if you get a chance to read it, I recommend it, especially if you don't mind the artwork. Like I said, the artwork is more of a problem than me. But I thought it was really good, and it definitely helped me understand the theme in the board game Mind Management, which we'll be talking about next week.
Hello, and welcome back to Retro Board Game Corner. Here I have Starsky and Hutch, the detective game, published in 1977 by Milton Bradley. This is a 2 to 4 player game in which you're trying to capture the criminal first. Let me set this up and show you how it works. This is what the game board will look like set up. Every player is going to pick a different color Gran Torino and the different colors on the base and start here on one of these circle spaces. Every player is going to get dealt a suspect card. The rest of the cards can be shuffled into piles here with 7 cards apiece. On every turn, you're going to roll a 6-sided dice and move around the game board. If you land here on any of the red spaces, you'll just draw the top card from that stack. If it matches your suspect card, you'll go ahead and lay it face up next to the suspect card. If it doesn't, you'll just start a discard pile face down. If you land on another opponent's space by exact count, you will go ahead and look at his face down discard pile and select one card and either play it if it's your suspect or lay it in your own discard pile. First person to get all 4 of their suspects will win the game. Starsky and Hutch ran for 4 seasons from 1975 to 1979, with a movie in 2004 starring Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller. Well, that's all the time I have for now. If you have a comment below, or you can tweet to me at RetroBoardGamer. And as always, may your rolls be high.
All right, folks, that's it. As a side note, we're trying to figure out issues here at the studio. This chair literally doesn't squeak, so we don't know what the squeaking noise is that you are hearing. We're going to look into that, try to figure out what it is. Maybe it's coming through the monitor or something, but I mean, I'm moving in the chair right now, so I'm not sure what the deal is. So we'll have to figure out what that is. Maybe it's rubbing on my tie or something. We'll figure that out in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching. Join us at 10 o'clock for Z with What's Happening. We'll see you then. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.